So if I was to pull up the financial histories of my wealthiest clients, you'd probably spot something kind of weird. Most of them did not get rich in the way that you'd think, right? No secret stock picks, no crypto moonshots, no offshore trust fund. They all just followed the same boring pattern. It's called the 8-4-3 rule. Now, when I meet a new client, they walk through my door and they expect me to hand them some hidden formula. Like they want the magic trick. But here's what I actually show them. A simple rule that explains why wealth speeds up over time. Almost kind of like a gravity pulling money towards them. So let me break this down super simply for you. The 8-4-3 rule shows you basically how fast your money can grow if you invest regularly and the stock market does what it's done historically, around 7 to 9% per year. So I've just used that in this scenario. Here's how it works. So it takes about 8 years to build £100,000. Then it takes 4 years to add the next 100,000, getting you to 200,000 in total. And then only 3 years to pile on another 100,000, hitting 300,000. It keeps speeding up. The next 100 grand might take 2 years. The one after, eventually, your money grows by 100 grand in a matter of months. The exact timeline, of course, depends on how much you're putting in and what returns you get, but the pattern is always the same. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why does it speed up like that? And what's the whole point of it? That is the magic illustration of compound interest. When your money starts earning money, that's when money earns money. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, right? Tiny at the top, but at the bottom it's absolutely massive. And by the way, if you want actual strategies behind this, I put out a free weekly email where I break down all the tactics that I've learned from 15 years of helping people build wealth. No fluff. Just stuff like this that actually works. Links in the description if you want in. Now, here is something crazy. There is a famous story by Fidelity, I believe, that once looked at all of the consumers and customers they had and which accounts made the most money. Now, it turns out the accounts that made the most money belonged to the people who'd either forgotten they even had an account, so the sign-ins were so minimal, or, get this, dead people. Absolutely crazy. Now, nobody's actually found the origins of that original study, but it's become a bit of a legend in my industry. But here is what's actually real. Every year, a research firm called Dalbar publishes data on actual investors' performance. And every single year, it's the same result. The average investor earns way less than just the market. Not because the market's bad, because people keep buying and selling exactly at the wrong times. The ones who left their money alone, they just absolutely crushed it. Famously, Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's business partner, put it brilliantly. He basically said that the first 100,000 is brutal. He didn't care how you got there. Walk everywhere, use coupons, do whatever you've got to do, live on rice and bread. Just get to that number. I've done my own version of this video called the 100K rule, essentially, which is something that I learned fairly recently. But anyway, and look, Charlie Munger isn't being dramatic. This is so true. He was pointing at the hardest part of this whole journey, the bit that breaks people. So the question is, will it break you? Well, let me tell you about someone that it pretty much almost did break. So I had this client, let's call him James for argument's sake. Now, James was like pretty much doing everything right. He was putting 500 quid a month into his stocks and shares ISA. Solid plan and surrounded by some other things that he wanted to do. But I remember the exact point. After 3 years, he comes into my office, he sits down and he goes, look, I have been doing this for 3 years. And I've barely got £20,000. At this rate, I'll be like 80 before I retire. And do you know what? I totally get it. I totally get it. Because in those early years, your money isn't really doing much on its own. year one, you put in £6,000. Now, even with a great year and a great return, a 10% return, you're only going to make £600 profit. That's what, a weekend away somewhere? It's not hardly a life-changing sum. The problem is that our brains only allow us to think in straight lines effectively. So you put in 6,000, you get back 600. And you think, right, so in 10 years, that's £6,000 profit. But that's not how compounding works. It curves, it accelerates. It just doesn't feel like it for a few years. This is what I call the valley of disappointment. And just take a second to drink that chart in. And honestly, I would say truly my main job during those first 8 years with clients, it isn't picking investments or helping their portfolios grow so much. It's actually stopping people from doing something stupid to interrupt all of this sort of stuff. Now, I'll show you what that actually looks like in a second, but more importantly, I'll show you what happens to the people who don't quit. Super important. Because here is what I see over and over again. The cash ISA trap, right? The markets dip, people panic, and they pull everything out and stick it back into a cash ISA or premium bond. Safe? Sure, but they've just killed their engine. They've just pulled all the fuel out of it. And inflation eats away at their savings. So they never even get to the 4 or the 3. Next up, lifestyle creep raid. I see this one so often. If someone will hit like £40,000 in their investments, and then suddenly their kitchen looks dated, or their neighbor rolls up with a new Audi, and lo and behold, they raid their ISA and take all the money out, and the clock resets to 0. Then you've got the speculative pivot. Now, this one I see all the time, and trust me, this is the biggest killer that you'll have, okay? So I genuinely had another client who just would not listen. They pulled £40,000 out of their ISA and dumped it all into 3 crazy cryptocurrencies just because his mate at the pub told him that it was guaranteed. And he basically wanted to try and accelerate or cheat the game, essentially. 6 months later, he is sitting across from me with £12,000 left. He goes, maybe I should have just left it. Yeah, mate, maybe you should have done. So what happens to the people who don't do all of that, who don't quit? The millionaires that I work with, they survive the 8 period without flinching. They understand that the first 100K is mostly their hard-earned contributions, not some miracle crypto play or the magic market. They automated their investments and just put their heads down. And the big bit, just let time do the work. And the trick here is don't check your portfolio. I am as guilty as this as anybody. It's kind of my job, so I'm kind of in the habit of doing it. But with my own money, I check my portfolio over the time. It's my biggest annoyance about myself. But try to not do as I say, not as I do. Don't check your portfolio more than once a quarter. You don't need to. If you're investing properly, really, you should only be checking it like once a year. If that, if you are really investing properly, you just don't need to do that. The less you look, the less chance you have of doing something that you will regret. Any money that you put into an invested environment, you have to mentally put away for 5 years plus. Just forget about it. It's gone to you. It's gone to you. But then something happens that most people don't expect. Once you push past that 100K, that first 8 section, the physics of your wealth completely changes. I see this all the time. It's a bit like, think about like bump starting a car, like, or pushing a car. The first 100 meters or so, you're doing all the work. Your arms are burning, your legs are shaking, but then the car gets rolling on its own, doesn't it? I mean, not sure you've probably ever pushed a car for 100 meters, but you get the point, right? And before you know it, The car is going faster than you can even push it. Let's look at the actual numbers of what I mean. So let's assume you have got that £100,000 invested. Let's say it grows by 8% in a year. That's £8,000. If you're still putting in £500 a month, that's another £6,000 worth of contributions. So your portfolio grew by £14,000 in 1 year. Now, here's the key point. Did you notice the shift? For the first time, your money is making more than your contributions. That is massive. It's such a huge psychological win. I see this all the time. It just completely changes how people view what they're doing. So remember that client I spoke about a minute ago, the one that I think I called him James, the guy who was ready to quit after 3 years? He didn't quit. He's past like 200K now. And he told me like a month ago or last month, I can't believe I nearly threw all of that away over just some kitchen that I didn't need. And that is what reaching 4 completely feels like. By the time you're going from like 200K to 300K, the 3, an 8% return gives you £16,000 a year just from growth. Your wealth is compounding at a pace that has nothing to do with your salary and how much you earn and how much you put in. Every millionaire that I advise has had this moment. It's like a strange psychological switch flips in their brain. They stop worrying. They stop checking their portfolio every day. The stress just kind of lifts away. They didn't even realize that they were carrying it. But here's the thing. This isn't reserved for people just earning 6 figures and making big contributions. It's maths. And maths works whether you're putting in 200 a month or 2,000 a month. That feeling of going from financial anxiety to financial calm, that is what the 843 is really, really about. Now, this is the part that separates the people who actually become millionaires from the people who just watch YouTube videos about it. Because knowing the 843 rule is absolutely useless if you don't do these 3 things to make it work. Okay, during the 8th phase, your contributions matter way more than your returns, as I've said. The market isn't going to do the heavy lifting yet. You are. So this is the time to be like super aggressive with your savings. Cut back, earn more, do whatever it takes, exactly like Charlie Munger was saying. You can ease off later once the compounding kicks in, but right now during this phase, every extra pound you invest shaves huge amounts of time off that first 8 years. But even with the most perfect contributions, they get absolutely destroyed if you're leaking money to the tax man, which is why tax-free accounts matter so much. First up, your stocks and shares ISA lets you shelter £20,000 a year. Everything that grows inside it, completely tax-free. You don't pay a penny. That means that your compounding engine runs with basically zero drag to it. So right there, just by using your ISA properly, by making sure that the contributions in that first 8 years will already give you that edge over most people. But then it gets better. Your pension, this is where the government basically pays you back to invest. They give you back the tax that you've already paid on your income. So in this case, let's assume you're a basic rate taxpayer. That's anyone earning roughly less than £50,000 a year. For every £80 you put into your pension, you get £100 into the pot. So putting £100 into your pension only costs you £80. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, even better. A £100 contribution might only cost you £60. And better yet, if you're doing that through a workplace pension and your employer matches your contributions, that is free money. Actual free money just sat on a table. Now, most people, which is very bizarre to me, just don't take that free employer matching and that free tax relief. It's like someone handing you a £20 note on the street and being like, Nah, I'm okay. That 20% top up alone, minimizing the tax friction alone. If you're putting £200 a month and the government's adding in, say, £50 a month, that is an extra £600 a year that compounds over decades. Over 25 years, that free money portion alone, just by keeping what you've earned and taking advantage of the employer contributions, that could grow to tens of thousands of pounds. Now, this last bit, this is the one that's a bit spicier. So you should consider to try and accelerate through a higher equity allocation to your investments. Now, most of you will probably know and have heard of course, stocks and bonds. Well, generally speaking, stocks are where you get all your return from and all your growth. Okay, so they're the things that drive growth over time. But it's a bloody roller coaster on the way there, with stock market valuations moving up and down all the time, and it can be a real headache. Whereas bonds, well, they're much less riskier, so they don't go up and down as much, but they give you a way less return over a longer period of time. Generally speaking, people who are comfortable and happy with taking a higher risk, i.e. just amount of volatility with their money, should have more of their money invested in stocks. And more cautious people should have more in bonds. So to make the 8-4-3 maths work, you need growth. You need growth propulsion. A lot of people start off investing with a sort of cautious, maybe 60-40 split between stocks and bonds. And I get the logic, right? Bonds smooth out the bumps. But in those early years of your journey, within that first 8 period, you might want a bumpier ride if it means getting to that inflection point of that 4 and that 3 faster. So just to put that into perspective, over 20 years, choosing more stocks in your portfolio over bonds could mean an extra 5 or 6 figures in your lifetime. Same amount going in, completely different results. Most of my wealthiest clients accepted more short-term volatility on their money early on, knowing that it was fuel for the exponential growth waiting for them in 3 and 4. That bumpy ride that you get with the stock market, that is the price of admission, essentially. And every single one of them will tell you that it is worth it. Now, here's the problem. Everything that I just showed you about the 8-4-3 rule, it falls apart if you're kind of measuring your process and progress the wrong way. I've seen people who look wealthy on paper who are genuinely one emergency away from losing anything. And the reason isn't something that most people have ever even thought about. I break down exactly what you should be tracking instead in this video right here, which is why you should probably give it a click, and I'll see you there.